Let's hear from our favorite CIA agent, Johny
Point
Harris.
a camera at the Earth, 600 kilometers above the surface. It's pretty mesmerizing. But point it at the Korean Peninsula and you'll see this. South Korea is ablaze, but North Korea is almost totally dark. You've got this little point here for Pyongyang, the capital, but it's mostly a void. The Black Void tells a story of how the 25 million people live in this secretive kingdom of North Korea. But as the sun rises, we get to fill in the details, we get to see more. We get to see cities designed to control. We get to see an unfathomable amount of military installations, many of them burrowed into mountains, where they protect nuclear weapons, where the over 1 million soldiers endlessly prepare for war.
There's over 10,000 manned military installations. So air defense, bases, naval sites.
Bro, we really fucked this country up. I swear to God. They are literally, they have designed every fucking function of society against what already took place. Okay? To ensure that what took place never happens again. It is crazy. Yeah. Half of their shit's also underground, no? Like, they have a lot of tunnel systems in North Korea. I wonder why. I wonder why they design half of their functions to be underground. I wonder.
You know, all
Same
that
with Iran. It's like the same shit.
To Pennsylvania.
We see factories, lots of factories. We see these little islands of dense housing, which are the homes of the workers who are assigned here.
Oh my God. If you see this and you don't instantly think every country that is outside of America's sphere of influence needs nukes, I don't know what to tell you. Okay? Yeah, they're building fucking homes in factory towns for the workers that work in the fucking factories, and they don't look like Gaza. You know what I mean? That's crazy. I wonder why they haven't been blown up. Perhaps because also, goddamn, America's cultural victory is so insane. This literally looks like a Houston suburb, okay? How the fuck are these guys in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea basically building Houston-ass suburbs, bro? Are you kidding me? What the fuck is going on? They got McMansions in North Korea? How is this possible? I love how every time a video criticizes the lifestyles of an authoritarian country, it just describes our lifestyle. No, the difference is you don't get this state-sponsored housing in America. Jusha abundance mindset.
We see barriers, lots of barriers. Barriers meant to keep people in. And not just on the borders with neighbors, but also within the country itself. Checkpoints and barriers between provinces. I've been looking at every inch of North Korea because I want to understand how it actually works. I want to understand how the all-powerful leaders have designed this place and why. And I've been stumbling upon stuff that I never thought I'd see in North Korea. Ski resorts, an international children's camp, lots and lots of water slides, markets where people buy and sell things, schools and fields, fruit factories.
Why is that shocking, Jonald? They're a fucking country. What do you think they were doing, man? Do you think they don't have the concept of fun in North Korea? Like what? Yeah, of course. Wow. Wow, they got water slides. Guys, this is shocking. Yeah, it's shocking to you if you think that like the North Korean people are aliens or something. What the fuck? Dude, what is happening? Wow. They got markets? They're engaging in commerce? They got a ski resort? What the fuck? What's next, dude? They're eating food? You know, the same type of food that other human beings also eat? What is happening?
Coal shipments, limestone mines, burial grounds, prison camps in the cities and the mountains. Lots of strange-looking buildings, stadiums and tracks, and sports fields, empty roads and empty squares, Christian churches, a turtle-shaped building, apartment blocks where rich people live. I mean, you stumble upon some pretty wild stuff when you just scour every inch of the satellite map. I've also been talking to experts who...
Okay, that's really disrespectful.
Churches, a turtle-shaped building, apartment blocks where rich people...
Apartment blocks where rich people live. This was a glorious moment for the glorious Democratic People's Republic of Korea, where after many, many years of dedicated service, Kim Jong-un gave this apartment as a gift to one of the most famous women on the planet, okay? I remember I monitored the situation actively. I covered it on this fucking broadcast when it happened. This was beautiful. Tears were shed. Look at this. A lifetime of service, dude. Whom is this baller? She's the main lady. She's the main newscaster for DPRK. She's like the main, you know, the lady who sounds really fucking aggressive when she's explaining things. We gotta play one of her. We gotta play one of the. Yeah. Kim Jong-un gives Pyongyang flat to North Korean news anchor. The veteran news anchor who got a new riverside home. She told state media the Pyongyang flat was just like a hotel. Yeah, she's the main newscaster. Her family reportedly wept all night in gratitude. Yeah, Ri Chun-hee has read the news for North Korea's state network since 1971. 1971. Ri Chun-hee. Over her career, she's announced the death of the nation's ruler and its first nuclear weapons test. She's known and sometimes mocked overseas for a passionate tone delivering the news. Yeah, no mockery here, okay? I have great respect for one of my peers. As a newscaster here in the United States of America, newscaster recognized, this is, you know, I bow to the real. Like Walter Cronkite is nothing in comparison to her. Kim Jong-un called her one of North Korea's treasures. He also gifted new flats to others loyal to him. The complex was finished ahead of late founder Kim Il-sung's 110th birthday on April 15th. Pyongyang could mark the anniversary with a nuclear weapons test, the U.S. has warned.
Welcome back to Leading Ladies of the North. Today we're looking at the party's most famous newscaster, Ri Chun-hee. Born into a poor family in 1943, he became North Korean media royalty due to her loyalty to the party and her dependence on the state for survival. Her fealty and ideological credentials earned her enrollment at Pyongyang University of Theater and Film as a drama major. According to a 2009 edition of the North's chosen monthly magazine, her rise to fame was attributed to Kim Il-sung's warm love and faith in her broadcasting ability. Later, she was recruited by the state-run KCTV in 1971, where her theatrics suited North Korean broadcasting's heavy showmanship to convey different tones depending on the news being delivered. As the bugler for Kim Jong-un, he reserves a lofty proud tone when praising him and his nuclear developments and an invective tone when discussing the West. The party uses her over-the-top speaking style to spread government-controlled information, contributing to North Koreans' forced isolation and the infringement of
Yep. More like she fucking delivers the news, okay, and restores glory to this glorious nation. Chill.
their fundamental human rights to free thought, expression, and access to reliable resources.
You don't have to add all that. Calm down, okay? She is the GOAT. And yeah. Anyway, let's keep going.
People live. I mean, you stumble upon some pretty wild stuff when you just scour every inch of the satellite map. I've also been talking to experts who spend their time looking at the map of North Korea, analyzing it day by day for decades. Their data has been really useful in all of this. And honestly, I'm starting to see North Korea in a totally different way. I think I've been exposed to a very specific version of this country. And that doesn't mean it's an inaccurate version, but it's just one version. Today I want to show you a deeper version. Now the map can't tell us everything, but I'm seeing how it can fill in the blanks in my knowledge of how.
If we lift sanctions, does it not just get looted by Kim and his associates? Or is it actually better as a destabilizing force to oust the Kim dynasty? Americans only have one fucking speed, bro. I swear to God. This is literally one speed. I wasn't saying lifting the sanctions as a means to fucking, I don't know, disrupt the North Korean form of governance. I was simply thinking about it on humanitarian grounds with a potential for it to destabilize the dynastic rule that the Kim family has over the DPRK. But immediately Americans have to be like, wait, what's in it for us? Maybe through this aid, we could just fucking, I don't know, destroy the Korean government and overthrow it. Otherwise, what if we just give them aid and then what? Kim gets fatter? Like, what's going to happen? What more can he do to loot the aid, chatter? Think about it.
How this country actually works. Broadening my perspective on this most secretive kingdom in our world. So buckle up and let's get ready to look at this map. I mean, this whole country is under one giant surveillance. And I guess while we're talking about surveillance, I mean, first things first, North Korea is a beautiful country.
North Korea is usually viewed as, this hellscape of a place, but it's actually really beautiful. Lots of mountains and hills and rare animals and everything.
It's home to this huge mountain range. Among these rugged mountains, you've got this volcano, Mount Paektu. It's kind of a sacred spot for North Koreans. It's where their legends say their great leader Kim Jong-il was born. Incidentally, it's right on this border, actually. Half of Mount Paektu is on the Chinese side. China, North Korea. North Korea can get really cold and snowy. It's home to between 20 and 30 million people. It's about half as many as live in South Korea. And it was the war in the 1950s that created these two Koreas, and in the process turned what is now North Korea into dust.
Okay.
Today, North Korea is built around a few major cities. Here's the 10 most populous. Some have ports, some are up on the border with China, and then this river city of Pyongyang. This is the capital. A lot of this had to be redesigned from scratch because the country was destroyed in the Korean War. The country itself is designed in line with this North Korean communist ideology of a human body. The great leader is the brain, and then the members of his single-party government represents the nervous system that connects his will to the masses. The masses are the bones and the muscle, the ones who carry out the work of building this country. The country is supposed to act as one, serving the will of the brain, the great leader. And what I'm seeing is that this kind of body configuration allows them to do some pretty unique things. First and foremost, military. Most countries spend between...
Bro just described urban planning, city planning, and planning of the state as like a unique entity. I don't understand what's so different.
1 in 4% of their GDP on military.
Oh, so like NATO nations. So, you mean like what Trump wants out of fucking Scandinavian countries? Is that what you mean? Oh, damn. Also, 1 in 4% is wild. That's kind of a big swing, don't you think?
North Korea spends between 20 and 25%.
Oh, he wasn't saying he wasn't saying NATO. He wasn't saying other countries spend 1 in 4%. He's saying Korea spends 20 to 25% of their GDP.
On
my bad.
Military. And we've got the data on what that looks like. Whoa, okay, settle down, big boy. Oh, God. Look at this. Oh, my Lord, look at this.
My mistake.
I don't think I've ever seen so many yellow push pins in my life. It kind of reminds me of that map of...
Where's he getting this info from, bro? I swear to God, he's CIA.
Saunas in Finland, places like a fortress. You can see that a lot of this is concentrated down here on their southern border. This is the DMZ. It's actually a 4-kilometer thick border. And technically with...
As I said this earlier, is literally, we have fucked this country up and left it in a state of disrepair. Like, this is... You only do this if you are brain broken. Probably because 30% of the North Korean population is serving in reserve / paramilitary capacity. We have fucked this country up, and that is the reason why the only way that they believe that they can have sovereignty is so that they never allow what America and Western nations did to North Korea ever happen ever again.
Within this 4 kilometers, there's supposed to be no military stuff. That is, if you don't count the thousands of landmines that are there left over from the Korean War and that North Korea continues to plant. But in terms of weapons... Most of it is right here on the border of the DMZ, where North Korea has 900 artillery guns that are aimed right at Seoul, South Korea. In the event of a conflict, these guns could fire 10,000 rounds a minute at South Korea, which would make good on their promise to turn South Korea into a sea of fire, which they often make towards their southerly neighbor. Now, a reminder, it's not just North Korea. If we were mapping American or South Korean military assets, you'd see a lot of those too on the southern side, down here. But we are looking at North Korea right now.
Yeah, don't.
You got underground bunkers, missile launch sites, nuclear reactors.
Why doesn't China help out? Wait, what do you mean they do? China is responsible for damn near the entirety of trade with North Korea. North Korea and South Korea not reunifying is also kind of good for China as well. I mean, I don't know if China would give a shit or not ultimately. Clearly, they are perfectly happy with dealing with other countries in their backyard that are vassal states. I mean, look at Japan. You know, China is a major trade partner to Japan, but I think like the way China sees it as a buffer state, DPRK is a buffer state between American ambitions and China. They're not allies. North Korea and China don't trust each other since Korea was aligned with Moscow and still is. Okay, but fucking Moscow is aligned with China. And also, China, what are you talking about? China is their fucking entry point into the world, dude. No, that's not, I don't think you're correct. As far as like North Korea doesn't trust China. China is literally, without China, the DPRK has no economy, no commerce. DPRK is calling the shots. China is a small player in the region comparatively. True. True. DPRK is China's Israel? No, that's Pakistan. Pakistan is China's Israel, not DPRK.
Airstrips, naval bases. So you've got the thousands of landmines. And of course, this little pavilion where soldiers from both sides stand meters apart. This is where the countries have their diplomatic talks. You've got 1,000 observation posts, 300 checkpoints and roadblocks, tons of military facilities that support the soldiers here. And then, of course, tunnels. Man, you're going to see a lot of underground stuff here. North Korea is covered with...
No. Actually, I take it back. China is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's Israel. Actually, first ever. We're the vassal state, an extension of Korean imperialism, is far greater as an economic engine and a military superpower than the DPRK is. They are at the table. Turkey is the table. DPRK at the table. China, little partner at the table to DPRK.
These things. And this is just the ones we know of. One explanation for these tunnels is that during the Korean War, this country was basically flattened. Almost every building was turned to dust by American bombs. So a huge part of the North Korean psyche is this paranoid fear of air power. They designed their defense strategy to be ready for if that ever happens again. So you have a lot of these fortified bases and tunnels. Some of them are for weapons storage, and some of them are for invasion. Like down here on the DMZ, they secretly dug a bunch of tunnels that are kilometers long that go under the DMZ. This would allow them to move troops into South Korea very quickly. Actually went into...
I remember reading something about how like DPRK tunnel systems are so fucking complex, and how like they've taught the Viet Cong how to do complex tunnels as well. And that tunnel tech has made its way to both Iran and also even Hamas. Low-key, DPRK is Hamas. Okay, that part is not a joke. Like, I'm no longer memeing, but a lot of these countries that are outside of the sphere of American influence, that are oftentimes victims of American imperial ambition, have found new resourceful ways of resisting against these sorts of actions. And one of the ways that you do it is basically fucking develop a complex web of tunnels. From what I understand, DPRK tunnel tech is pretty advanced. We in Switzerland have a lot of tunnels too. Are we Hamas? I don't think so.
One of these tunnels that had been discovered by South Korea. But these tunnels also have another purpose. And in fact, the military itself, a big portion of it, is dedicated to protecting one family. You'll see this in the Capitol. This is the barracks that houses some of the 100,000 bodyguards meant to protect the Kim family. This hill is like a giant bunker. It's home to a bunch of military installations, some of them deep underground, a lot of them connected through tunnels. And this is one of the many escape plans that the Kim family has in case of an attack. They can escape on an armored train or in one of the helicopters that is stored inside of this hill. There's rumors that there is another huge tunnel system on the northern border that would allow the Kims to sneak into China if they needed to.
Just the amount of effort put into the security of the Kims themselves versus, helping out your average person. I don't think people really realize the amount of...
Yeah, look, see? There's an entire thing about the tunnels. I don't think it'd be far-fetched to say the Hamas weathering 50 months of aerial bombardment and ground invasion is long historical thread tying back to the U.S. dropping over 500 million tons of bombs on North Korea. There are many factors that allowed the Al-Qassam brigades to emerge from all corners of Gaza on Sunday, but a major one was their spider web of underground tunnels, a complex, endless maze of reinforced tunnels 50 to 100 meters underground with 5,000 access shafts. Following the U.S.'s genocidal air campaign in North Korea, described by General LeMay as, by the way, bombs away LeMay, burning down every village in North Korea, the KPA started building a massive network of tunnels along the DMZ. North Korea is regarded as the most tunneled nation in the world by military experts. North Korea has also built underground command centers, industrial sites, and the Pyongyang Metro, the deepest metro on Earth capable of withstanding a nuclear strike. The same year they completed the metro, North Korea dispatched an engineer regiment to North Vietnam to help them construct an underground military headquarters and pass on their expertise and equipment in their fight against the U.S. invasion. In 2006, Hezbollah humiliated the Israeli occupying forces when they invaded South Lebanon, a feat that rested largely on their underground infrastructure. Built with the assistance of North Korean engineers, A.B. Abrams notes that the layout closely mirrors the layout of the DMZ network. The effectiveness of Hezbollah's tight security network in southern Lebanon is emphasis on using complex and often extremely deep underground tunnel and bunker networks to move troops, store munitions, and infiltrate enemy territory safe from detection or air attacks. And more recently, its deployment of vast arsenals of rocket artillery and ballistic missiles all closely reflect not only Korean influences, but active Korean assistance. KPA advisor reportedly assisted Hezbollah in building the complex tunnel infrastructure deemed key to its success in 2006. And Israel's discoveries since then of infiltration tunnels under its own territory meant for wartime penetration were highly reminiscent of those discovered by South Korea coming from the DPRK. It is notable that the layout of the tunnel network in southern Lebanon closely mirrors that on the northern side of the inter-Korean demilitarized zone. To provide some indication of how extensive and well-fortified the Korean-built tunnel and bunker network in southern Lebanon was, the region south of the Litani River alone was thought to have 600 ammunition and weapons bunkers, 8 or more meters underground, alongside better fortified command bunkers constructed to a depth of 40 meters using poured concrete. These were not as deep as those in Korea itself, designed to withstand multiple American nuclear strikes, but were still sufficient to weather anything in Israel's arsenal or any known non-nuclear bunker buster in service in the Western Bloc at the time. The network built in southern Lebanon was 25 kilometers long. Western analysts also believe that North Korean engineers have been valuable advisors to Iran in the construction of their underground facilities. You can see one of them here. Some even believe that the North Koreans had a direct role in the construction of Eagle 44, and one of the most notable types of RPG ammunition used by Hamas is the F-7HE frag rocket produced by North Korea. Palestinians in Gaza have a long history with working with tunnels dating back to the 80s due to the blockade, but the scope, design, and purpose has drastically expanded since then. The first official tunnel operation against the Israeli occupying force would be conducted in 2001. Latest designs are bunker buster resistant, using a combination of poured concrete, arches, sandbags, and blast doors to fortify the soft sand and clay. Hamas tunnel pictured on the left and North Korean tunnel pictured on the right. Bro, the fact that Hamas is also able to do this under a fucking insane blockade implemented by Israel makes it so much more impressive. Because like the DPRK is doing this despite crippling sanctions and whatnot, but it's a fucking nation state. Okay, it has like some semblance of sovereignty. Gaza does not have that semblance of sovereignty. There are lots of unanswered questions as to just how significant Iranian and Lebanese aid to Hamas was leading up to the Al-Aqsa flood, but I don't think it'd be crazy to say that they at the very least received designs and technical knowledge from them as they did with weapons. North Korea has been intervening on American aggression for decades on the down low. In turn, the U.S., Israel, and South Korea have been training for tunnel warfare for years, but no modern army has dared to actually do it.
Security infrastructure. that they have.
But it's not all underground. The country is littered with 1,500 guns and missiles that are meant for shooting down aircraft. A third of those, by the way, are concentrated around Pyongyang, the capital. Like, look at this one. Pretty funky looking from above. Here in the middle of this field, you've got the Air Force. The Air Force is one of their larger military branches. And then you've got their Navy, which has a bunch of submarines. A lot of them not totally operable, experts think. But in a recent video we made on submarines, we calculated at least 36 operable submarines hanging out in bases like this. Now look at their missile sites. Missiles, rockets, nuclear weapons are a big deal for this regime, and especially the most recent leader, who, as you can see from this graph, has really ramped up the testing of all of this. These missiles have all kinds of different ranges, but the longest ones can go 12,000 kilometers away. I mean, that puts a lot of the world in range, including the United States. Many of those are up here in these mountain bases where they store these missiles and where they can launch them. But lately, they've also been trying to send up non-weapons into space.
Ambitious.
This launch pad is where, over the last couple of years, they've tried to put satellites up into space.
It's put a satellite in orbit. There's only about 11 or 12 countries around the world that have ever put a satellite in orbit.
The military is core to keeping the Kims in power, which is why they often show it off. I love this video from The Guardian.
The military is also key to fucking farming aura. They farm aura extra hard, brother. Don't you think it's equally impressive how North Korea acquired nukes? Yeah, that too, for sure.
They know when one of these things is going to happen because there's like a replica of the Kim Il-sung Square, the big central square, where all of these soldiers get together and practice. And so whenever they see activity in that practice square, they know that they're getting ready for one of these. So the military is a very important part of keeping the Kims in power. It's used as propaganda, it's used as actual defense, and it's often used to actually like build stuff. And you've got one of the largest militaries in the world, 1 million plus active duty. They're able to command that to do all sorts of projects, including construction projects, which we're gonna look at. One thing you'll see a lot of in North Korea is fences, and not to necessarily keep people from coming in, but more so to keep people from going out. They've spent years building a fence around the entire perimeter of the country, at least 1,400 kilometers, bordering China alone. Here's all the security outposts. I mean, this fencing goes through all kinds of terrain, including dug into the beach. And a lot of this was built recently, as more and more people have been trying to escape. And then within the country itself, there are barriers that control people's movement. The country has checkpoints at the province borders to make sure people aren't moving around without permission. So yeah, a lot of people can't get out of North Korea, but some can. In fact, there's a whole network of IT professionals, North Korean like engineers, who interview for Western tech jobs, get hired, and then pass money and information back to the North Korean regime, all without their employer knowing it.
Okay, I'm about to try to conduct a job interview for the first time in my life. I reached out to David Wensky, a senior software engineer, and he responded to me 3 hours after I reached out, but I'm not actually hiring anybody.
Oh my God, yet another one of these fucking fake job listings, bro. It turns out all of you chatters that have been fucking trying to get hired by these IT companies were simply getting honeypotted by these fucking losers that are trying to catch North Korean IT professionals for a YouTube video. Okay?
And I don't think David Wensky is actually who he says he is.
This is a big rabbit hole that is very juicy, and my colleague Christoph went down that rabbit hole in a new video that's live right now over on his channel. His show is called Tunnel Vision. It is very good, and this story about IT espionage and money funneling back to North Korea is incredibly wild, how deep Christoph was able to get. So you should go check that out. The link is in the description. Okay, so a lot of this stuff probably isn't that surprising to you. This is the kind of stuff we see on the news, the stuff that gets covered a lot, the military, the missiles, the control. But now I want to get to the part of this country that really led me to this video in the first place, which is the stuff that we don't see very often, to try to expand my understanding of what it is like to live in North Korea. What is life like in these cities, out here in the rural areas? How do they make stuff? Where do they get their food? Entertainment, community. Turns out that between defector testimony, state news, and the satellite map, you can actually learn a lot about this stuff. A lot of North Korea's cities were designed from scratch after the city was turned into rubble because of the Korean War. And because of that, they have very unique design that is meant to fulfill a certain objective that is in line with North Korean ideals of controlling people, unifying people, and continuously celebrating their leaders and the struggle of their continuous revolution. So, many of us have seen the capital, we'll get to that, but I want to look at these other cities. A lot of North Korean cities are built around a big central square, like this. A lot of them have these circles that look like they're hand-drawn. The squares.
The American mind continues to fascinate. They will look at like city planning as this like endlessly fascinating thing as long as it's happening in Korea. You can make the same exact video about fucking Barcelona, okay? You can say the exact same things. Like he literally said the North Korean cities were designed around like communal gatherings. Yeah, really? Wow. You mean third spaces? Like what do you mean? A plaza? They have that in like every Japanese town. That is the point, Hasan? No, dude. The point is what kind of energy you put towards this kind of this kind of like otherwise very banal city planning.
There's kind of the middle of the city. And then you have these massive boulevards that kind of frame out the city. Now you'll quickly notice in a lot of these cities that these boulevards are pretty empty. You see a lot more buses than you see private cars. Oh, and you see a mosque every once in a while. I've tried to get to the bottom of what the deal is with these mosques. North Korea has a couple of these churches or mosques that are mostly there for optics, from what I can tell.
What?
More on that in a little bit. So yeah, you've got these empty boulevards, lots of empty squares that lead to these kind of grand spaces. Now, these spaces are often punctuated with some kind of monument. Here's one. Here we go, Central Square. I mean, we can go back in time too and sort of look at the historical imagery. Huge boulevards, often very empty. Oh, boom, look, someone's visiting. So when you see people, you often see them in huge groups like this. At least that's what I've noticed from above. When there's people, there's a lot of them and they're all very close. But oftentimes this stuff is empty. Oh, look, here's a bunch of people lined up in near perfect geometry on this square. Every major city has a stadium. Now, some of these are in kind of bad shape, but some are really nice. Sports is a big deal in North Korea.
Some of the sports that are popular in North Korea, they do very well. So they're definitely, in some areas, sort of hitting above their weight, I think.
Though defectors do report that sometimes a stadium like this one in particular has been used for public executions or public shamings. Big part of the control regime in North Korea is to publicly punish to keep people in line. Okay, and then recently the government declared that every city needs to have one of these. Check this out. There are around 170 of these traffic parks, and these are new, but these are very important to North Korean cities. Remember all those empty streets? Like, most people don't own cars in North Korea. They go on buses. But recently, that's kind of changing. There's even a car company that puts together, like, kit cars and sells them in North Korea. They're one of the few companies that actually advertise. And so because of that, there is more traffic in residential areas, which has led to more accidents for kids who are not used to dealing with cars. So this was an initiative to teach kids the rules of traffic to promote public safety for children. One thing that's going on. Okay, so those are some of the design patterns and kind of common ingredients in a North Korean city. But let me show you some specific...
I love that he literally said, this is a stadium for football, which is strange. Okay, they're hitting above their weight class by playing organized sports at a professional level inside of their fucking country. And then he quickly was just like, and they also execute people, I heard. This is actually kind of a cool video because in spite of Johny Harris's like seasoning with the spooky music and the overall sentiment demonstrated that's like very skeptical of like Korean existence, there's still a lot that's like fascinating about a country, especially if you know the history and what North Korea has experienced overall. Like it kind of comes across as like flexing their accomplishments almost. So your takeaway could be dramatically different from the average American liberal watching this. The average American liberal is like shocked. They're like, ooh, they're scarily teaching children how to drive cars. That's creepy. Versus like if you're a little bit aware of what they have gone through, you're like, that's kind of remarkable that they have all of this.
Specific cities, because as we do that, you start to see how this country works, how its economy works. Hamhung is one of their bigger cities. You've got your standard big, giant, empty squares with statues of the leaders. But this is actually a big economic hub for chemicals. Here's an area that some experts believe is a chemical facility where they actually store this stuff underground. Remember how they love to put everything underground to protect it? These little white dots sort of represent that there is something buried there and potentially chemical weapons or other sensitive chemicals that they don't want the world to know about. See these big industrial facilities. They make a lot of chemicals like fertilizer, pesticides. It's home to this pretty wild-looking amusement park. I don't know what is going on with these slides. Now, I've never seen it full of people, even when I go to a weekday in the summer. But I want to show you this one factory. This is a really important building in North Korea because this is
a water park. But also, is it really? I've never seen, out of these two different satellite images, I've never seen people at the water park, so maybe it's actually not a water park, but they're doing water torture at the park. Perhaps it's a place that is used for public executions.
where they make vinylon. Vinylon is a fabric that you can make not with wool or cotton, but with coal and limestone, which is something they have a lot of in North Korea. So as a part of the push for self-reliance, North Korea produces this synthetic material called vinylon. They use it for uniforms. Like a lot of clothing in North Korea is made with this really tough, scratchy, durable vinylon material. Use it for curtains. They kind of use it for everything. It's the North Korean like national fabric. So this is their biggest vinylon factory right here. And it's so important that the leader came to the reopening when they renovated this thing. So yeah, vinylon is made with coal. They mine a lot of coal in North Korea. If you zoom into this port in Hamhung, you'll see really gnarly looking yellow pollution. But you'll also see ships with coal aboard. You'll see all this coal getting ready to be shipped out, basically all of it going to China and potentially violating sanctions, but that's not what we're looking into right now.
Oh, brother. Let them fucking breathe, man. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, fucking snitch, dude. Violating sanctions. How about the sanctions are in and of itself a severe and ongoing violation?
Let's go to another city, but this one is interesting. It's up north, right in the shadow of Mount Paektu. This is a nice looking city. It's home to this ice rink. It's got a ski hill up here. There's, of course, the required children's traffic park. This was a big construction project for Kim Il-sung. And it's meant to show the world that North Korea is open for tourism, especially here in the shadow of their holy mountain. And look, this thing went up really fast. There's evidence that to make this thing go so fast, they used this youth construction brigade, which is a bunch of young people who do construction labor for like 10 to 12 hours to like show their loyalty to the party and potentially move up in the ranks to move out of like their social class, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit.
This district was pretty much empty before it started.
I'm getting fucking, I wish I had that North Korean infrastructure right about now.
And in the space of, within a couple of years, or even a year, all of this was built. We don't know much about the construction standards, but they do build very fast.
But yeah, when you control every...
Bro, this is literally, dude, this is the same shit that they were doing in China. The difference is they can't really do it to China. They can't really do it to China anymore because like, it's not shut off from the rest of the world like North Korea is. So they're getting their kicks off in the same exact way with North Korea. Wow, I can't believe the DPRK is a fucking federal jobs program, dude.
Every human in the country, you can build this stuff really quick. Now, whether or not this is good quality stuff.
You don't think they use child labor? No. Why the fuck would they use child labor? No, I don't think they use child labor. They have a fucking ginormous country filled to the brim with able-bodied men and women. Why the fuck would they use child labor? I don't know, but my immediate assumption is not that they use fucking child labor. What are you talking about? It's construction, dude. Glazing North Korea as well is not glaze. Think critically. What would be the reason as to why? Okay, once again, what would be the reason as to why they would use child labor? Child labor is often utilized in countries where there is a profit incentive in mind. Okay? Are children more capable builders? Why would they use child labor? If they are, even if you were to assume that North Korea is this despotic, dynastic, authoritarian, military rule, right? And they have the capacity to, at gunpoint, make adults build shit. Why the fuck would they use children? Why would children? Just think, like, within the logical confines of the system that Johny Harris is developing here, okay? Think within his own logical framework. Why would children somehow advance the construction efforts and make it faster? Please. Like, if they have the capacity to do forced labor, scary, at gunpoint, why would they use children?
Is another question. Like, I've seen videos of some of these houses in the mountains that like have ice on the inside of the window. So we're not sure if this is, good construction, but boy, they're building stuff fast. Okay, let me show you a few more of these cities. Okay, let's go to Chongqing, port city here on the East Coast. Got some gnarly industrial stuff going on here. Home to these very cookie cutter looking homes. Here they produce textiles, rubber, steel. They build trains. They've got a big power plant. And you can see out here in the water, this is where a lot of shipping comes in and out of the country.
Yeah, that's funny because, Johnny didn't even suggest that they were forced. He just suggested that the children are... the children have this upward social mobility within the North Korean class structure, which I'm sure he will get to in a second. They have the opportunity for class advancement in North Korea, and that's why they fucking work in these as children. They work in these conditions, even though there's plenty of fucking adults. Like, all of the jobs are controlled by the government. Why would the government go, you know what? We don't want able-bodied men and women working on the construction sites. We want children, okay? We want children to work at these construction sites, teenagers to work at these construction sites, because somehow they're better and more equipped and faster at building houses.
Look at all these vessels. I mean, not a lot relative to most countries, but, got all this gnarly industrial stuff doing steel. You can see that they're shipping stuff out. There's coal, some of these minerals, a lot of mining happening.
My point is, child labor is not skilled labor, also is not equipped, like physically equipped to do the kind of labor necessary to build a home. There's no reason to do this in a country where the government controls all aspects of labor. Like, I think they would have better use putting adults into this expedited construction scheme. And I've described this while not giving any charitability to North Korea whatsoever. I even said, even if what the suggestion is true, that there's like forced labor and stuff happening, why the fuck would they force children to make these houses? And chatters were like, why are you glazing North Korea? I'm just saying it doesn't make logical sense. And he used it as a reason for why it was so fast, why the building was so fast, because children potentially worked in it.
As we will see, usually is the work of political prisoners deep in the mountains working a life sentence of hard labor. But yeah, for now, let's just look at this. I mean, some of this stuff just looks like a wasteland, but that's industry for you. But then all of that steel production is happening right next to these tightly packed homes, just endless homes. You've got your required empty boulevard, traffic park. Here's their train station. Here's the big central square. This one's really ornately designed. Let's see if anything happens if we go back in time. Oh, they just built this. This is 2020. Look at this thing go up.
Yeah, you can see the little dots that they're building. Those are children. They put those kids to work again, dude. There's nothing that North Korean children value more than pouring concrete. Do you understand?
Looks nice. Statues of the two leaders, sports stadium. And if you look at these big blue roofs, you will see something that you wouldn't expect to see in North Korea. This is the home to a market where thousands of vendors buy and sell things all day here in the socialist, communist, anti-capitalist utopia of North Korea. So the story here is that back in the 90s,
Bro, stop. There ain't no fucking no. No. He said socialism when no trade, socialism when no commerce. That's fucking awesome. Wow.
when the Soviet Union fell, North Korea was hit very hard because they were very reliant on aid from the Soviet Union. Mass famine spread throughout the whole country, and this region was very deeply hit. So it gave rise to this really resourceful black market. Homemade goods, smuggled goods, sort of bartering, trading. Between a couple 100,000 to a couple million people died during this famine. And the black market was the only way that a lot of people lived and still live today. So in 2008, the government tried to crack down on this. This is like very anti-North Korean, like letting people buy and sell and smuggle stuff in. This is like not North Korean. So they cracked down, and the mostly women merchants in this city protested. You don't see that in North Korea. They marched to the city government office, and there was like a big confrontation, and they basically said, like, we won't be able to live if you cut us off of this.
Where North Korea has started to change has been the sort of underground economy. It has become somewhat tolerated under Kim Jong-un, these kind of illicit markets.
And today, the government continues to let this happen. This one we're looking at with the blue roof is a big example of that, but it's not the only one, not even close. These markets are now all over the country. So a lot of people get their stuff on this kind of black, gray, informal market, which has turned into a massive network.
I don't get it. Why didn't they just kill all the women? Like, what? It doesn't make sense. Why didn't they just kill everyone? I thought this was like a incredibly suppressive state, incredibly repressive state. Why didn't they kill all the women and then abolish the commodity form once again to maintain this loyalty to what Johny Harris claims is the Marxist-Leninist principles that they abide by? You know, why didn't they abolish women? That's so weird.
Of trafficking stuff in, usually from China and almost always illegally.
Individual smugglers that will bring stuff literally across the river that divides North Korea and China. Sometimes those trading companies will, in the back of the truck, in addition to the shipment they're meant to be bringing in, bring a few other things in as well. And then that will kind of flow into the black market that way.
Back in the famine days, it was just the essentials. It was just rice and corn, just basic food. But with time, it started to become a more sophisticated private market. And today you can get all kinds of cheap Chinese products. I mean, China is like the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, and they are right there next to North Korea. There's a lot of ships and trucks coming back and forth between the two countries, which serves as the arteries for this black market. A lot of these goods end up in these markets. Here's one in Pyongyang. There's a part of me that wants to do a whole video on these markets because they are very interesting. The whole informal economy of North Korea is something I might do a video on. If you're interested in that, let me know, because man, I want to pull on that thread. But real quick, there's two things that I feel like I'm learning about North Korea because of this informal market system. Number one, North Korea's very survival is thanks to the presence of China. China, this massive manufacturer, rapidly developing country, is a lifeline for North Korea, both in the formal trade.
I don't understand why he's saying it's a black market while simultaneously pointing to government-sanctioned, government-built, possibly by children, child laborers, market facilities in every town across the country. Like, I feel like if it's a black market, doesn't that imply that it's being done without government supervision? Like it just kind of, at what point does a black market turn into a market? Do you think they got Labubu? Oh, I know they got Labubu, bro. I know they got Labubus in North Korea. They probably got more Labubus than we do.
As well as the informal black market. And the second thing that this kind of confirms for me is just how much the centrally planned communist government does not work. It does not actually work to allocate.
Same bogus sources for the market stuff. Daily NK, North Korea's Sunan market site, major investigation into embezzlement by local official.
Goods and services to the people. This country would not be able to survive without the black market. So in addition to China, the black market is the only way that a lot of North Koreans survive. But you can see how risky this can become, these informal markets, because the regime only works because it controls every aspect of people's lives. So these black markets are relinquishing some of that control. So every once in a while they crack down, they go in, they like break up the markets, they make sure to extract fees, they make sure that this doesn't get too out of control. Anyway, the markets are endless.
Yeah, they might get swept away with with the light of capitalism. This literally feels like 80s propaganda against the USSR. If only they knew the thrill of commerce like this, they would see the light of capitalism, and the Korean government hates that. They're so fearful.
Fascinating. One other thing you see in Chongjing is up here. This is a prison camp. Prison camps always have economic activity attached to them. And further up the valley, you've got...
Unlike the American facilities that also have economic activity attached to them, but American style, which is why that's cool and fine. Very different things happening. That's the different, burgers, guns, freedom, bald eagle scream. America.
This re-education camp deep in the valley for anyone who shows disloyalty to the regime. This one's for just over 1,000 men who don't live in these homes. That's for like the officials. They live within these walls and they spend their time mining copper and iron, cutting logs, making bricks, and farming. This is where we should talk about the prison camps, because this one that we just saw in the city, there's a lot of those. They exist in cities. Some are just typical prisons. Some are re-education camps, but there are way bigger ones, and they're up in the mountains, and they represent what I see as the most egregious version of North Korea's many human rights abuses. What's happening inside of these shapes is some of the worst stuff we can imagine. This is pretty upsetting stuff. I'm not going to go into like super detail, but let me just show you these 4 major prison camps, where they are, what they have inside of them, and who gets sent to them, and why.
He just like menacingly keeps zooming in and out. Dude, just zoom in, man. Just show me the scary human rights abuses that happen in North Korean prisons that seemingly don't happen in American prisons, even though we have the largest prisoner density on the planet. Well, I think maybe CCOT now might actually... CCOT are our foreign slave labor colony that we are using to send our immigrants to, might have actually overtaken America on the prisoner density number. But
and how and everything we know. You get sent to a prison camp for kind of anything. If you show any rebellion or disrespect to the party or the leader.
Ain't no way CCOT holds over 6 million prisoners? No, prisoner density per capita. I'm saying that America has the highest percentage of prisoners per capita, as opposed to, but I think it's El Salvador now because of CCOT. I guess we could technically say is also American, since we're using it as well as our proxy prison.
If you're a public official who messed something up, you get sent to one of these. Just being accused of wrong thinking can get you sent to one. And it's not just you and your family, it is also your children and your grandchildren that aren't even born yet. The system detains multiple generations of someone they've deemed a political prisoner. Now, officially, none of this exists. North Korea laughably says that they do not have any such political prison system, but here they are.
There's actually around 700 penal facilities. Okay, now that goes from short-term detention sites, that you're there for a weekend, to those massive, 50,000 people concentration camp style sites.
And they have these names like Camp 14, Camp 11, and they're often on these huge tracts of land. Here's one up in the north. Like this is
These videos never end up comparing other countries deemed bad countries, foreign adversaries, to America, because the purpose of this video is to make you leave the video with the underlying notion that things might be really bad in America, but at least we're not North Korea. The moment that you flip the script and start talking about, haha, I was actually referencing America, is the moment where everyone will tap out of the video and go, you fucking piece of shit, how dare you say this? I know this from my own personal experience because I do this all the time, where I say, like, these are human rights abuses, okay? Which, yeah, of course they are. But the moment that I talk about, like, the very same, sometimes exact same human rights abuses taking place in the United States of America, Americans fucking blow a gasket, okay? They fucking short circuit. They go, what? No. They're doing it Korean style over there, which is so much worse.
It's like we're deep in the mountains here. Like, look at this. This is the prison camp. There are guard posts and fences. Some of these aren't completely fenced in 100%, but like, if you look closely, you will see fences here cut into this forest. If you look real close, you can see a guard post. And within these camps, not just adults, you've got a lot of children. Many of them were born in the camp. They know nothing different.
What?
And what you'll see inside these prison camps is a lot of economic, productive activity being done through forced hard labor. So like up here, you've got this coal mine. That's a big one. That's one of the reasons all of this stuff's in the mountains. Then you have a lot of farmland up here as well. Livestock. There's even a distillery here, maybe making some kind of hard alcohol to be shipped to Pyongyang. You've got a factory here. You've got a school, probably for the guards' children. The children in these camps are made to work from the time they are 4 to 6 years old. And the work hours are 10 to 12 hours long for everyone in this camp. Unpaid, forced prison labor. The conditions are horrific.
What? Okay, this I don't know. And don't think is true. I think this is just a heavy speculation. There's children in the prison camps. They're born in the prison camps. They don't know anything other than the prison camps. And they're working at the age of 4 in the prison camp. Doing what? Goo goo gaga business? Like, what the fuck can a 4-year-old do in terms of labor? This is the moment where, like, things that were kind of true turn into just like completely made up, hyper embellished shit. It's like Kim Jong-un shot his uncle in a piece of artillery into a pit where there were dogs, and then the dogs ate the fucking uncle, and then a week later the uncle is actually alive, and they're like, oops, I guess that didn't happen. Like, it's shit like that. Like, it's bad enough as it is. The conditions are not great. You don't have to fucking, I don't know, Yeonmi Park it. What the fuck? 4-year-olds are doing 10-hour shifts at the coal mine is a wild thing to say. He's not using any sources or anything. Bro's making up 90% of this video with Google Earth. Like, the blue roof markets exist all across Southeast Asia. It's just a common roof color in the region. I don't get this at all. I look at Google Earth at night all the time. I don't make it into a YouTube video and repeat my delusions. I mean, this is almost as ridiculous as, like, in North Korea, the men pull the trains. You weren't there. How would you know? If you're going to talk about somewhere else, at least do the service of visiting it yourself. Okay, well, neither has he or Douglas Murray. And those guys love talking about North Korea.
People are on the verge of starving and often have to fight for resources. But you'll also see that even within these prison camps, it kind of feels like a North Korean city. It's like a little microcosm, a little mini version of the North Korean cities. Like, look, you've got a central square.
Defectors who escaped, tell them, thousands of them. Yeah, dude. Listen, I'm not discounting the firsthand testimony of defectors. There's a lot of valuable information that you can derive out of it. And then there's a lot of people who openly, other defectors, will say that they embellished as a direct consequence of the monetary incentive associated with openly embellishing about the conditions of North Korea. Yeonmi Park is one of the greatest examples of a North Korean defector. Okay? she also is one of the funniest memes of all time. She is literally used as a template for making shit up about a country, or sometimes saying the truth about America, but with the North Korean seasoning. Like, Yeonmi Park is such a fabulous that other defectors have literally been like, she's out of her fucking mind. She's just making shit up.
Square with a monument. You'll see murals of the great leaders. You'll have these indoctrination centers, a school. I want to know more about these schools. It's like a little mini city. These big ones, there's like 20,000 people who will live here. They are fenced in for the most part. Most people who come into this prison camp never leave. The people who are born here will never leave. These are life.
What are you saying? What the fuck? Where is the none of this is true. I don't think. Like, he's just looking at a fucking Google map and is like summarizing something that like a defector most likely made up. What do you mean? There's four. Look, I'm sorry. After someone in all sincerity tells me that a 4-year-old is born in a fucking prison facility and is working 10 to 12 hours, it is very difficult for me to take them seriously after that point. Okay? Like, you can zoom in and out of a Google Maps thing all day, every day. That's not offering you additional credibility after you said something so unimaginable, so insane, that defies all fucking logic. What are you saying?
You have to hand massage a cow for your leader to take.
The wildest and most obvious made-up stuff comes from her YouTube channel, where she really just seems to be making all of this stuff up completely on the fly.
If you be sarcastic, especially about the leader and the party, not only yourself going to be executed, the 3 generations of your family gonna be executed and sent to political prison camps with you.
North Korea sucks. Right, this country that has been a non-stop occupation by...
I know he has sources in the description. They're all like fucking North Korea Daily. Like, even Western outlets are unfortunately unreliable when it comes to like understanding what the fuck is going on in North Korea. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have 2 very good friends from Australia who quite literally made a documentary about exactly this, okay? This thing that we're currently watching, which is that there is an entire industry designed around like the very limited amount of information that's readily available about North Korea, and how it's propped up by state departments that are invested in like constantly fucking talking about how terrifying North Korea is. Their names are Boy Boy and I Did a Thing, and they went to fucking North Korea to get a haircut, if you recall. The documentary is called Haircut, but your sources are all perfectly valid and true. I'm not even fucking sourcing this off of anything beyond what I've read and also what I have literally heard from people that went to fucking North Korea. Given that there are severe limitations and also a lot of interest in making shit up, it's very difficult to get a accurate assessment of the things that are happening. Yeah, defectors fear impact of mounting skepticism of accounts told by celebrated North Korean escapee. Other defectors said you're fucking the bag up because you've made such shit, things up in such a spectacular fashion that, like, you know, you're ruining this market. You went way too hard, dude. Can you show evidence of her making things up? Yeah, like things that she says in this video, but most famously when she fucking says in North Korea, men pull the trains. This is physically impossible. Okay?
Yeah.
Were they eating them raw?
Sometimes if you find the skin, you do, but they do find some like fire and roast them.
So they were excited to find a rat to eat.
Yeah,
so they were catching them with their hands.
Yeah.
Were they eating them raw?
First Japan and then now America. They're definitely spending all of their resources on the joke police. North Korea blows, man.
Parents cannot feed their children. We give them mud because children are so hungry. And when you eat mud, you die in 10 days. You cannot go to the bathroom.
Sometimes even I get a little carried away. I see some mud, sometimes it has that perfect consistency, you know? And I start eating a little bit of it, but then I remember what Yeonmi Park said. I remember that, I think of it, and then I
Bro, my mom does that shit when she talks about growing up in Vietnam during the war.
So you're born in North Korea.
Yeah.
Are you going there on the next tour?
They don't do comedy shows there, do you?
I think that's the thing, like in North Korea, I knew about comedy, but in comedy, they have to glorify the dictators. So I was like so shocked in America, people can make fun of everything.
Yeah.
Or themselves or anything.
Yeah. Well, there's a dinner that they have every year where you make fun of the president. And the president has to be there and then get made fun of in front of everybody.
They don't get executed.
You know that? Crazy.
Wow.
So you're born
sentences, and it really gets its roots from the old Soviet days where so much control and power was wrought from just having the threat of this thing that the UN has called a human rights abuse with no parallel in modern times.
Like the person that we're talking about is a person who said Columbia University taught me the same lessons
After
as North
5
Korea.
years in
Okay.
South Korea, I came to America, guys. I came to the promised land. And I came here to study at Columbia University in New York City. And that's when I thought my journey to freedom ended. From now on, it's going to be all happy ending. I'm going to a land where justice lives and people understands the value of freedom. When I got to Columbia, I was completely speechless because the professors at Columbia were teaching exact same things that my North Korean teacher were teaching us back in North Korea.
Yeah, like math. Just why is she kind of bad though? That's like half of the fucking the half of the purpose here. Yeah, they were teaching biology, which is weird. I didn't understand.
Yeah. And I was thinking, how is this possible? My Columbia professor, 21st century, living in New York City, telling us math is racist. Math is made up by the white man to control the minority. After 5 years in South Korea,
In North Korea, they're teaching tricknology. The white man invented tricknology. Oh my Lord.
Like this is a level of control and deprivation that doesn't really exist anywhere close to this degree.
20 odd million people that are basically prisoners.
Reminder that her lies are so outlandish that even other North Korean defectors call her stories ridiculous. A 59-year-old woman from Hasan who escaped in 2009 laughed when asked, was anyone ever executed for watching an American movie? How can you be executed for watching an American film? It sounds ridiculous even saying it. That has never happened before. I go to church with around 350 defectors, and you ask any of them, and they will say exactly the same thing, she told us over the phone from South Korea. Other defectors confirm this. By the way, that idea that people get executed for watching an American movie isn't just Yeonmi Park's assessment. It is literally the type of insane statement that does make its way to CNN. This is why I was trying to explain to you that even Western media, unfortunately, is not very reliable when it comes to getting accurate information about the day-to-day existence of North Koreans. This isn't to say that like North Koreans are eating burger every meal and life is fucking fantastic, but overall, a lot of the stuff that defectors even say, they have a fucking financial investment or financial interest in, like, maybe exaggerating a little bit. Anyway, let's continue.
Prisoners to a system that they can't change.
This is kind of like a condensed version of that, a prison within a prison. Now, there's obviously a lot more study that's been done and visual analysis from satellite imagery. In our sources, you can read some of the human rights groups' reports on this, where they've done sort of a deep dive and annotation. I've just done a quick overview here. And to contrast the prison camps, let's go to Wonsan, where I found one of Kim Jong-un's palaces. We can really show you what Kim Jong-un does with this power that he's extracted from his people. So this is Wonsan, and up here, you got your empty square with the circles, you got a port. Then up here, you've got this international children's camp where kids from all around the world come to partake in North Korean fun and sport every year. And then right here is the Kim family compound. Look at this, right on the beach. It's got this private beach with all kinds of security barriers. It's got all of these massive structures, big yard, a shooting range, and right here next to it, of course, a railroad just in case the guy has to scurry away in case of an invasion or something. So he's always got an escape.
Yeah, so does every fucking leader of every country in every state in around the planet, okay? The notion that there are escape routes available for a president is not worthy of scrutiny or fascination. It's just how it is. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? The only thing that's unique is that they use a bulletproof train, okay? That's it. That's the only unique part about this. Same with Vladimir Putin. What the fuck?
Plan. So while the 100,000 North Koreans,
like, he's literally saying, like, this president's like such a pussy, dude. What are you, scared that you're gonna get fucking invaded, dude? Okay, why does every president have that? Of course every president has that. Yeah, but they're escaping in like a weird Korean way. You know what I mean? Like a weird North Korean style situation. That's why they're escaping Korean like.
Are imprisoned up in the mountains. Kim Jong-un has his residence here on the beach. You know, I've known this. I've known that North Korea is crazy, but to see the prison camps and then to see this is just, it's fairly sickening to me. So when you're out here in rural North Korea, like I've been a lot lately, you stumble upon a few weird things. Check this out. Like you'll get this, like, this looks like maybe an anti-aircraft battery, like a military installation, maybe here in this red earth. Then you get these like really peculiar looking.
Wow. Hold on. I got this. Hold on. Folks. I got to show you something. Okay. I have it on good authority. Here you have the Department of Corrections. This is a former prison in DC. Okay? You can't really see. It's really bad. The visuals are really bad and really scary, and you should know that it's really scary. Also, only a couple miles away, this incredible sight. Computer enhance. The president, the leader of this country, only miles down the road, living in this house. They say some parts of the house might have been built by slaves, real human beings that were bought and paid for and sold as commerce in the market. Up on the roof, snipers. What are they afraid of? This president must be terrified of his own population. Underneath this house, tunnels. That's right, miles and miles of tunnels. You can kind of see, here it is, the entry point into the tunnel system so that the president can evacuate with ease. That's right. I didn't want to show you this, but it needed to be done.
Housing blocks that are just eerily symmetrical. They're kind of everywhere out in the rural area, and they are often built next to a farm. I've never seen villages like this anywhere in the world from the sky. They're just so clearly, deeply planned. But what I'm learning...
Yeah, dude. They have a command economy. Yes. Also, it literally resembles an American suburb. Motherfucker, look at Houston, okay? What the fuck?
Learning is that this is how a lot of stuff gets made in rural North Korea, a lot of the farming. Like, look at this. See all these houses? All of these houses, which look identical to each other, they are all a part of this factory. This is a factory that makes, let's find out. Boom. There we go. Fruit. This is a fruit processing factory. Out here, way out in rural North Korea. And all of these homes are the people who work in the fruit factory. Something Jacob pointed out to me is that a lot of these are duplexes, meaning two families live here, and you can see this is their backyard, and they have kind of a separator. So they have this little plot of backyard. This is their community.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. This literally feels like glazing North Korea. Like in America, you don't get a government sponsored condo when you're working at the factory, which is close enough to your home. In America, you get nothing. You get to live in an apartment with like 8 other people as you go to the fucking factory down the road, and you have to drive there on top of that.
Community. You are assigned a job here and you work here. I don't see a car anywhere on these roads.
You mentioned cars. Of course, private ownership of vehicles isn't really a thing in North Korea, so there's no need for parking spaces.
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why it's not a thing. Let me think. Perhaps there might be a reason for it. I don't know. Maybe because they have been forcibly excised from participating in the global marketplace. And as a consequence of that, they didn't really develop industry surrounding private vehicles and instead focused on the limited opportunities they had on public transit.
You are living here and working here for your whole life. I see some people biking, some people walking, but the other thing you see are these vast complexes of greenhouses. Kim Jong-un has been going nuts on greenhouses, building as many as he can. This was an airport for some reason, but over time, this airport got turned into a massive greenhouse complex. Kim Jong-un has been doing this, and in fact, just a short time. This is 2022, and this is today. Like, man, they build stuff fast.
You know who built the greenhouses? Children. You know who's working in the greenhouses? Children. That's right. You might have guessed it. It's children. It's always children. Children are working and building the greenhouses. Children built the previous airspace as well. They built the airport, and then they were flying the planes.
Fast, it seems. So, one way that North Korea works is by just assigning people jobs and having them live and work in the exact same place. But man, I get really mesmerized out here in rural North Korea looking at the configuration of the housing. Okay, but we have to talk about the capital. I know everyone's wondering, like, the capital, it's the most interesting. I've been holding off because I feel like the capital gets so much coverage, and I'm interested in, like, these rural, like, backwaters. But let's talk about the capital. In order to understand Pyongyang and, like, what it is, you have to understand this concept of Songbun, basically the caste system for North Korea. It's how they subdivide the people. And, like, once you're in one class, you're in one class, and, like, your kids are in that class too, and you can maybe move up or maybe move down. If your grandpa was, like, supportive of the Japanese or wasn't super loyal during the revolution, then you are a part of the hostile class. Like, you are not to be trusted, you are not loyal, you will have the worst jobs, the worst opportunities, you will get the worst punishments. The wavering class are kind of the middle ground, and they are more trusted. They're still on thin ice like everyone, but they have more opportunities. They get better healthcare, they get better schools, better food. But the core class, those are the top dogs. They're party officials, they're the elites. And those are the people who live in Pyongyang. They live in a completely different world than the rest of the country. The capital, which is a pretty wild looking place. Here on Google Earth, they've put these little 3D renderings of, like, the big super wild hotel at the center of town that actually
Isn't that supposed to be a casino?
looks really awesome and cool and wild, but it's totally empty. At least that's what the reports say. It's just a big piece of propaganda. Part of it is that with these buildings, because electricity is so flaky in North Korea, you actually don't want, like, a high-rise, like, penthouse, because if you're, like, at the 30th floor.
What the fuck is he? Is he eating chips with chopsticks? They should have never let Mormons escape Mormonism and find the internet, bro. We shouldn't let Mormons out of the country. Straight up. We should just keep them in the country.
And the power goes out, you're walking 30 floors of steps. So the most desirable apartments, according to Martin, the expert interviewed, are the ones on the bottom floors. Okay, so Pyongyang has big old stadium, monuments, big grand boulevards, lots of buses. So much transportation happens on buses in North Korea. And as you're rolling around here, you see a lot of like pretty peculiar architecture.
A throwback.
Like, just understand that this is a pre-recorded video, as in he wanted you and me to see that he was eating chips with chopsticks when he was talking, okay? Like, I need you to understand, this is all a performance. This is not a live stream. He wrote a script for this, and in the script, he was like, I'm going to be eating chips with a chopstick while explaining to you Pyongyang, okay?
Back to Soviet era when cities were laid out on a template and you had, brutalist architecture and everything and just rows of...
I still love Johny Harris. Johny Harris is one of my favorite content creators, straight up. And it's been a while since we've reacted to a Johny Harris video.
Apartments and no real suburban landscape.
A lot of these theme parks are empty parking lots all the time. It is just a snapshot in time. So we don't actually know, but I've never seen anyone in these. Although, check out this promo video from this water park.
Oh my God, doesn't this baby know that she has to go back to work at the baby factory? You're acting all cute now, Korean child. If you are not extra cute in this video, you and 3 other generations will serve in the baby factory.
You start to see that a lot of this stuff is built to show the outside world that North Korea can do this, and to show, fellow North Koreans that North Korea can do this. That is a massive part of construction in this country. It's not about serving the broader people as much as it is about telling a story. So many sports are a big part of North Korean culture. Kim Jong-un's got his little signature buildings here. Every leader has a different style, and Kim Jong-un is just doing it with these curvy apartment buildings. One thing you see here is churches. There's a bunch of random churches in Pyongyang. One of them is this Eastern Orthodox church, which North Korea built for their good friend Russia. Here's Vladimir Putin in this Eastern Orthodox church. Oh, but here's a Protestant one. Founder of the country Kim Il-sung had a mother who was a Protestant. And apparently she was a deacon here in this church. So they restored this church, and it's sort of like a symbol that look, North Korea believes in freedom of religion. But they, to be clear, do not. Religion is not widely practiced in North Korea for obvious reasons. Now, what I love...
I don't think they fuck with religion like that in general. I don't think it's anything more ominous than that. What do you mean for obvious reasons? Is he trying to say obvious reasons as in look at what the church has done in South Korea? Because I don't think that's what he means. Because if I was North Korean and I saw what the CIA was doing with the Christian churches in South Korea, I'd be like, no fucking Christianity, please. Not allowed, okay? I'd be like, no, stay away, okay? Stay the fuck away from my country, please. Oh my Lord. Fun fact, North Korea has a masjid, which is the Iranian embassy, but the employees are all Sunnis from across the world.
What I love about Pyongyang is it takes the whole big boulevard, grand streets that are empty to a whole new level. I mean, look at this. Here's where the great leader used to live. This was their palace. And coming off it is this big, grand square, empty. And coming off that, there is this grand boulevard that is just so grand and so empty. It goes down.
Oh, he means worshiping Kim as God? Oh, that's what he meant. I wasn't even thinking like that.
Through this big, beautiful roundabout, keeps going through a tunnel to another
I don't
big,
think that's
beautiful, mostly empty roundabout. There's a car. And now it enters into this massive grand, you would expect a urban design like this in Mexico City or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lanes going into this grand intersection for the 4 cars that are here. I mean, it's mesmerizing to look at, right? So anyway.
I think one of the saddest parts about both North Korea and even China is how fucking Amerifat coded they are. Like, they're also Ameriboos. It's American culture is like inescapable. But like everything he's shown of North Korea just kind of looks like cooler Houston. China is like especially Amerifat coded with their car culture. Luckily, they still have tremendous public infrastructure and public transit options, but they also still definitely have a fuck ton of cars.
Anyway, that is the Grand Boulevard that leads up to this palace that the leaders used to live in. The leaders don't live here anymore now. Kim Jong-un lives instead up here. See if I can find his house from memory now that I've been staring at it nonstop. Boom, there it is. Found it. Okay, here he is. He lives up in this big compound up on the hill. This big boy. This is his main residence in the city. I'm looking at my data set from Jacob, and you see potential underground entrances to these heavily secured compounds and bunkers. For how much we know these folks like to dig, you can imagine that behind Kim Jong-un's house, there are tunnels and bunkers. We don't know that, but...
Bro, what are we... I don't think he's making this shit up. I just don't understand why this is like, ooh, scary. Okay, this is what I mean. It's like, this is every leader of every country, including the United States of America. I don't know. Maybe this is unique, but I don't understand.
I presume there probably is. Now, Google Maps being what it is, someone put a concentration center label right over the hill from Kim Jong-un's house. I asked the experts about this, and they're like, no, that's not a there's not a concentration camp on the other side of Kim Jong-un's house. It's probably a barracks where his bodyguards live. Don't believe everything you see on Google Maps, folks. So yeah.
But you just did that. You did that the entire video. You literally zoomed shit, and whatever the thing that it said turned around and repeated. It's been 42 minutes. Why is it that at the 42nd minute, you finally go, maybe this seems a little bit far-fetched? The entire video was that.
Yeah, Pyongyang is a place that could look fairly developed and nice. And indeed, the imagery from Pyongyang does look fairly nice.
Let that not fool you.
Nice in some views. Because this is where the elite live, the core class. This is where the output from all of the horrific abuse and slavery that's happening out in the countryside comes to benefit. And this is the center of power for the regime. Oh, and something you can't see here, but that you see in a lot of like tourist videos is the very deep underground train system. They've got a subway that is very nice looking. And boy, I wish I could go there and visit and see it someday, but I probably will never do that for obvious reasons.
Yeah, because he's CIA.
Okay, I want to finish this video talking about the thing we can't really see on this map, which is the people.
They are regular people like you and I, and they have dreams and ambitions. They just want to have some food and enjoy themselves and go out with friends and just kind of have a happy life.
Despite all the horrors of this place, there are wholesome, meaningful traditions and rituals that still endure. The Lunar New Year, or the Harvest Festival, brings people together to celebrate. The extreme poverty limits their feasts, but they often consist of homemade alcohol, simple rice cakes, and something poverty and totalitarianism can't totally take away, which is community, the nourishment of relationships. As we've seen, most people can't really move around in the country, so they stay in one place, which defectors have reported leads to a sense of intimacy and connection with the community they live next to. They lean on each other, they survive because of each other, they celebrate together, and they seem to find meaning despite all the limitations and all of the control. One defector went so far as to say, everything was suffocating and pitiful in North Korea, but it is a country that I have many positive memories from. So if someone asks me, what is North Korea like? I say, North Korea is a nice place with plenty of love.
And that's, I think, one of the things that's often forgotten when we look at North Korea in the traditional media, because people having a happy life is not newsworthy, but a military parade or a nuclear test or a missile launch or something is newsworthy.
Yeah.
So, just leaving you with a reminder that there's more to this country than the horrible realities that we've seen here or that we often see on the news. If you want a deeper look on this angle of the country, there's a book called Nothing to Envy, which is a great human-level account of life in North Korea. So thank you all for being curious with me as we looked at this map. To understand more about this secretive country, let me know what you want me to cover next.
Oh my God. North Korea can host the best F1 street circuits. The internet is such a cool place. You can become an expert in North Korean geography from the comfort of your own home. No, you can't. This video did not prove that. This video did not prove what you think it proved. Man, how North Korea builds cities is like how I play city building simulation games. Let us all appreciate the fact that we were born elsewhere. The fact that we're studying North Korea like it's an alien planet is just wild. Bro really chewed on more food in this video than North Koreans see in a week. Ugh, gross. Everybody gangsta until Johny Harris says, look at this map.